Hi, my name is Hannah, and I am here to share my faith story with you. So, it started out when I was a young girl. I went to school at a Lutheran school, and for me, faith was more of a hobby. It was very superficial, very simple. I thought it was just, kind of putting on a uniform, like putting on my Sunday clothes, going to church, and leaving, and that was kind of the end of it. Like, there wasn't a lot to it for me at the time. And so I didn't really understand the depth of building a relationship with God at all. So this is kind of how my faith went all the way through elementary school and all the way until I got to middle school. And it was just before in 8th grade where my life kind of took a huge turn. There was a lot of trauma and a lot of dark times that happened in the next 3 years for me. And the next 3 years probably were some of the worst times of my life. Some of the things that happened to me was I was uprooted and we moved halfway across the country to Arizona. Our house got foreclosed on. My parents ended up getting a divorce and splitting up. When I moved back to about 3 months later from Arizona, I found out that my mom had cancer and she went through treatment. And it was months after that that we ended up moving in with her new boyfriend up in this little town called Ripon where I knew no one. And this house for me was very emotionally unsafe, and it just wasn't somewhere I felt comfortable. When I thought about God, I was so angry. I had so much resentment and so much misunderstanding, and all I could think of why me? Why am I given this life? What did I do to deserve it? And I didn't understand how in these next 3 years, my life would be the way it was, and there was just so much darkness surrounding it. So in that really dark time, like I said, I didn't really deal with a lot of trauma. I kind of shoved it down and just sucked it up. And again, I thought I prayed and I tried to work through it with God, but looking back, my prayers were so angry. I was just spiteful and hateful with God, and I just didn't understand why. In this new city, where I felt so left out and felt like I didn't belong, there was this girl in high school who finally invited me to go to youth group with her. And I reluctantly said yes because I wasn't really sure where I was in my faith, but I felt like it couldn't hurt. Didn't really have a lot of friends at the time anyways, so I figured why not. So I went, and that's where I ended up meeting Aaron about 9 years ago. And it was through that youth group that I started to feel more of a connection with God. I started to talk with him a little bit more. My prayers weren't so hateful anymore, and I started to build back that relationship that I had lost with him. I got to the point where I was kind of a regular on that youth group night, and I went and I was feeling a lot better about life. And I realized that I didn't really thrive on my own, but after building my relationship with God, I could see a lot of the reasons why I sort of had the life that I did, why I was given a lot of the darkness that I had. And I kind of realized it was to show me how strong of a person that I really was when he was with me and when I leaned on him and turned to him to help me through these struggles. And I just saw how many amazing people that he ended up putting in my life. But still, even when I had this foundation and this growth with God of where I was, I ended up having a pitfall, and I was just stuck in this different rut. And I felt like I was going down the wrong path again, and I just couldn't understand why. I was to the point where I felt so disconnected from God again. I didn't feel like I could call myself a Christian, and I felt so much guilt about some of the things I was doing. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. I was dating the wrong boys. I was, So I got to a point where I started to feel just really disconnected from God. I was doing things that I wasn't proud of, and even though I was calling myself a Christian, I knew on the inside I wasn't. I was doing actions that didn't match up with what I was saying. I ended up pulling away from my church. I ended up not answering texts. I didn't go to church on Sundays anymore. And finally, I just had enough. And I woke up one day and I had this revelation of, I need to do something about it. I'm either going to turn away from God completely, or I need to fix some of my actions, and so that's what I ended up doing. I ended up going back to the pastors and the people that really cared for me, saying, hey, this is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling so guilty, and I know I need to change my actions. Help me get to where I need to be. And after going through that, I really looked back on my life and found how thankful I was for a lot of my struggles and for a lot of the people that God put in my life at that time. It was through God and the church that I ended up finding my passion for teaching. It was God who opened the doors to help me serve in kids ministry, and through serving I found my passion for teaching, which is what I do now full time. I also found that I love to sing, and even though I may not be the greatest, and I'm definitely not going on any TV show anytime soon, I love being able to stand up on stage and lead the church through worship and know that I'm helping others create a relationship with God and build their relationship through singing and through that worship time. And so even though there are times that I still struggle and I don't understand the purpose or why He's doing things or why these bad things are happening to me or other people around me, I know that it's always going to be like a roller coaster in my faith. I'm always going to have to know that there are times where it's going to dip low, but He's going to pull us back up. That's just one thing that I've really took away from my faith, and that I hope that someone out there can take away too.